Hello everybody, and welcome to our notes for today. Easy peasy stuff as usual. Measures of central tendency and dispersion. Our central question is, how do you compare measures of central tendency and dispersion? So really, central tendency, there's a few different words which I know you've heard of, but now we're just calling them a fancy thing, central tendency, because it is looking at data and what it typically does. So the first thing is known as the average. And again, you've probably heard these things in the past. Where you might have heard this was batting average, average speed, think about those things, and I don't know anything else really for average. Another thing that it's known as is the mean. Average and mean are the same thing, and its definition is basically if you add values of a set or their sum and divide by the amount of numbers. Okay? So, as you have probably seen in the past, an example in math, let's say I have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10. Okay, well, if I add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 7 plus 10, I get 23. And if I divide 23 by how many numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're always dividing by the total numbers you have. All right. You end up with a decimal in this case, but the average is about 4.6. Okay. We'll talk about some things there. Key things. It is always the sum in the numerator over the total number of things in the denominator. Total only has one L, Dvorsky. Come on now. All right. So those are some key things. Median. Okay. Sometimes people think of median in the middle of the road. Median is most likely known as the middle. Okay. So median, think the middle of data. Definition, it is the number that lies in the middle of a set of values. So if I again have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10, the median, the kind of little game you can play to go across, is you cross off one from the left, one from the right, one from the left, one from the right. You do that equal amount of times. 3 is the median. Okay. Key things for even number sets, you will have to find the average median. We'll talk about that more in class. And always, the bigger thing is data has to be, that's a star, data must be in increasing order. That is the real big thing. You have to have everything increasing from left to right. Okay? Mode, the kind of thing, so game modes perhaps, but really the takeaway is it is the most frequent mode, most, and it is the number or numbers that occur the most. You can have one mode, you can have two modes, you can have three, you can have no modes. Okay, so with 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10, there's actually no mode. none of the numbers repeats. If we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10, well, 1 repeats twice, so 1 is the mode, as it repeats 2 times. Again, you can have multiple, you can have singular or just one, or no modes at all. So those are the key things. Range is good old largest, largest minus the smallest number. So the definition, again, the largest value minus the smallest value, so pretty much the same thing. No, that's not where you've heard it before, but I'll have some examples from you. Example in math, so if again we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10, the largest number is 10, the smallest is 1, so to find the range, it's 10 minus 1, or 9. Easy peasy stuff. Key things, the biggest, absolute biggest number minus the smallest. And those are examples there. The only other thing I want to show is just kind of using these things for waterfalls in Washington. Waterfalls. I went to Ricketts Glen last year, and I got to see my first natural waterfalls out in the wild, yes. Okay, so there's a nice waterfall for us. Let's get back to business here. Mean. How do you find the mean again? You add them all up, boop, 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 and divide by the total. So I'll kind of jump ahead and do that here. Okay, so it's going to be a total of 10,752 divided by, I always recommend, okay, doing this first part, adding everything up, and then we are going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. And we get about, actually we get exactly 1, 3, 4, 4. So that's the average height of those waterfalls. The median, okay, what's the key thing with median? Must be in order from smallest to largest. I already took the liberty to do that. So since they're in order, I'm going to cross off one from the left, one from the right. Left, right, left, right. Oh no, I'm left with 2 middle numbers. Okay, so I have an even number of data points. That means I'm going to have to find their average, or if I take 1191 plus 1200, and I divide that by 2, I get the median. And it's about 1195.5. Okay, so average, or that's the median height. Mode. What number appears the most? It's looking like 1,000 appears twice, so the mode is going to be 1,000. And the range is largest minus the smallest. So 2,584 minus 1,000 equals 1,584. Now, that all is pretty easy. What's a little more challenging is kind of the critical thinking. Which waterfall seems to be throwing off our data? Well, if you were looking at these waterfalls, so say you go out to Washington and you see a few of them, so you see the 1,000-footer, you're like, oh, that's a nice one. That is a waterfall. It was supposed to be. Okay, you see the waterfall, doo-doo-doo. You see another one that's 1,000 feet, doo-doo-doo. Okay, you see another one a little bit bigger, and so on and so forth, until you get to the last one, which is 2,584, and you're like, wow, that one is spectacular. It is the one throwing off our data. We kind of call it an outlier because it is just different than all the other ones. It's just phenomenal, or maybe it's something we're not really wanting to consider. So if we actually get rid of the outliers, so which waterfall seems to be throwing off our data, that would be the largest one. Largest, L-A-R-G-E-S-T, 2,584. What would be the new best measure of central tendency? So really the question is, if we get rid of 2,584, what is the new mean, median, mode, and range? So those again are what we call outliers. They're either very large or just very different, so either large or small, that differ from the rest. Okay, so about 11 minutes there. We'll do the other part in class. What I would like you to do is on Google Classrooms, okay, on Google Classroom, so we'll do this Keystone example in class, but what I want you to do is give an example, real world, and it doesn't have to be mathematical, so math or not, where you have heard the term mean or average, median, range. Alright, only those three, because sometimes mode isn't really heard of all that much. So mean, median, range, where you found your own examples in the real world, can be math or not. That's what I'd like you to put on Google Classrooms, and hopefully you understand outliers and average and such. So thanks guys, we will see you in class.